Hello, Cherries fans. Happy Monday. Welcome to the second look. It's a different second look this time. Tom wasn't at the game on Saturday. So to talk through it with me, we've got the delight and the return of Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how are you? You all right?
I'm very well, very well. Bit throaty. I feel like a lot of that was exclaiming, "You don't know what you're doing" at the top of my voice on Saturday afternoon. But apart from that, I'm fine.
Yeah, this is like the good old days, isn't it? Doing the podcast, whether you're listening or you're watching, you've got this beautiful face on screen, and I'm not talking about myself, but yeah, superb to have you back. And look, we're trialing this, also showing it to our Telegram viewers as well. First, we'll give you more details about that later on. So it just means we can have a little bit of interaction throughout the show. So it was a 2-2 draw at St James's Park on Saturday. We're going to get through it very shortly, but before we begin, I suppose we just wanted to talk quickly about Eddie Mitchell, the former AFC Bournemouth chairman who passed away this weekend at the age of 69. He was at the helm of the Cherries between 2009 and 2013 in what was an action-packed time for AFC Bournemouth, both on and off the pitch. He played a key role in the club's rise up the leagues. Larger than life, he was a man that certainly got the Cherries in the spotlight, and someone who, without his input, I suppose, well, we don't really know where we'd be as a football club. But Jeff, he was someone that you and Neil spoke to on the back of the net, and I suppose you can't deny that he helped to put Bournemouth on the map, didn't he?
He certainly did. Larger than life, and he introduced Max to the club. I mean, what a genius move that was, and where would we be without that? I mean, quite honestly, I think we've got a lot to be grateful for Eddie, or to Eddie for, and very sad to hear the news today. Obviously, he also was adept at making headlines and a few colourful moments that I don't think we'll ever forget. And it was one of those characters. I see a lot of people who are talking about him like Marmite, and yeah, he was a bit like that. But I think ultimately, where would we be without him? Probably not where we are today.
Yeah, rest in peace, Eddie Mitchell. So this episode of the Back of the Net podcast is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sport venues are showing every single televised Bournemouth fixture over the 23-24 season. And with more than 900 sports pubs across the UK, it doesn't matter where you're based, you can catch every single minute of the action there. If you download the Green King Sport app as well, you won't just get 10% off all drinks anytime there's a match on the TV, but also this month as well, there's free Guinness to be won and the chance to win one of 6 holidays. If you use their Score King app, by the way, and get a correct scoreline, you get a free drink. Sadly, I didn't, but if you get the correct outcome, like I did with a few games, you get 20% off. So make sure you download the Green King Sport app. So, Eddie Howe's winless record in the league against AFC Bournemouth continues. The Chronicle paper up there, it labelled it unacceptable should the Magpies not win the game. And after their 4-4 draw with Luton in their last home game, I honestly thought we'd see a reaction from Newcastle. But was there one, Jeff? Because they weren't going all guns blazing, really.
No, and what a threadbare squad they've got. I was talking with some Newcastle fans after the game, and all they wanted to talk about was the injury crisis, which I think is a point. Although, I wanted to make the point to them: you're a club owned effectively by Saudi Arabia. Surely, in the January window, you could have done more business, better business to shore up the current squad. It just seems to me that we played them a pretty good time. And in fact, back when we beat them at the Vitality earlier in the season, they were similarly hit by injury. So we've caught them on 2 good days.
Absolutely. So no Wilson, no Isak, so threadbare, like you said. And look, we seem to play them when they've got these crises happening. But once again, we came out of St James's Park questioning the officials again. Last time, I think it was a Lerma handball, was it or wasn't it? But this time it was something else, and I still don't understand the rules. And as it stands, Eddie Howe is winless. Now, this is a great stat in 9 of the last Premier League fixtures as manager of both sides. What a
Yeah,
stat! Absolutely
what a
love it. So
stat.
this is where it leaves the league table at the moment. You can see it on screen. If you're listening to the audio pod, we're in 13th. Worryingly, there isn't a W in our form column last 5 games, but you know what? The performance was so much better. This is the form table as we're looking at it now. We've slipped into the relegation zone without a win, but to be honest, Jeff, I've got to say it's a similar tale for AFC Bournemouth as it was in the Fulham game. I mean, loads of chances created, frustrating mistakes that lead to the opposition scoring a goal. Jeff, I see that you've been joined by a very special guest. Who have we here?
This is Libby. She's got views about the game too. I'm sure that she'll share. She watched it on Match of the Day.
Absolutely love it. You wouldn't get this with Tom Jordan, wouldn't you? But look, I think a lot of Bournemouth fans are feeling optimistic after that performance, though, because we did create a lot. Just a typical case of not being clinical.
Yeah, and I think that we need to look at the positives, right? We're creating lots of chances. We're creating far more chances than we have done under the previous 3 managers, and it's great to watch. It's great to watch. I think the frustration is, and I know it's one of your favourite words, Sam. It's clinicality. We need to get better at finishing, and there were hints, I thought, on Saturday that we're getting through that sort of loss of confidence. I think we need somebody like Semenyo to spark, and what a finish that was. We obviously need Dom to score and to take more of those gilt-edged chances that he got in the game, and we need some of the other players. The midfield needs to chip in more, I think. Then we'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. But what a weekend it was in Newcastle. We've got Layla saying, what a weekend, just about recovered the amount of Geordies that she met in her hotel, asking them to leave Solanke behind for them. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. But it was a funny game for Dom Solanke because there were chances that he should have scored, and there was a chance that literally just came completely out of nowhere. But look, 2:00 teams came out, and this is what they were, Jeff. I think Morgan represented Back of the Net on a pre-match preview on a couple of YouTube channels, and I think he got the team lineup bang on. So Morgan Scott, absolutely kudos to you there. Credit to you. It's Neto's 50th game for the Cherries. Loads of mini stats coming out. There's Kluivert coming in against the club that his dad played for. Of course, we had a number of players in the Cherry side that have actually played under Eddie before, including Adam Smith, Lewis Cook, Dom Solanke, Lloyd Kelly. Adam Smith, of course, has scored at St James's Park before, but in his own net. But one thing that maybe stood out for me, Jeff, was the potential mismatches that were going on. So I was looking at Dan Burn, left back, and Dom Solanke on our right flank, and I was licking my lips. Equally, though, Harvey Barnes against Adam Smith. So it was always going to be an interesting tussle, wasn't it? Plenty of duels all over the pitch.
It always was. I think there were 3 key decisions that Iriola had to make. One was Neto or Travers, and on balance, I think most fans thought he'd probably go with Neto and give him another game. I think dropping your captain, who is also your goalkeeper, is a high-risk decision. I think Trav will probably play in the cup game, but Neto was a nailed-on starter for me. The second one I thought that was interesting was who'd play the 10. And I think after what Scott kind of underperformed a little bit, I think, against Fulham, it was obvious it was going to be Kluivert back in. And then the one that surprised me was after we've just spent 20 million quid on him was that Sinisterra didn't make the starting 11, whereas I thought Tav probably was a little bit fortunate on recent performances to keep his place.
Yeah, there seemed to be a number of interesting decisions. I don't know whether it's fitness, but Kluivert didn't come in on the pitch on the game previous to that, where I thought he might have been quite effective, and Sinisterra would have added something, like you say, but even in game just wasn't utilised. So whatever the decision is, I'm sure there's method in Andoni Iriola's madness. One thing that I tell you what, one thing that struck me, Jeff. Now this is my that was my second trip to St James's Park. Okay, first time was after the Queen's passing, so there wasn't any of the flags or any of that stuff. This time there was, so it was a great spectacle. But you know what? Maybe I'm over it now, but I completely forgot about the Eddie Howe factor. And did we even chant like Eddie had a dream? I can't remember if we did. I certainly didn't hear it if we did.
Nope, we didn't. And
Who is
um,
he? Who is he?
I think we've moved on. I mean, moved on. That sounds a bit glib. We obviously we've got a lot of history with Eddie, but it does feel like we kind of have moved on a little bit. I think as fans, and I pinched myself in the second half just to see him standing in the technical area because I'd completely forgotten that he was actually in charge, and just thought,
Mm.
God, that's Eddie over there. Yeah, and I think that's testament to the sort of style we're now playing and the presence that Iriola is. I mean, it's great singing the Iriola song, and I think he's doing a good job, and he's taking the fan base with him.
And the game started. Like I said earlier, I thought there was going to be more of a reaction from Newcastle, but there was always that stat that in their last 4 home games, they've scored 10, fine, but they've also conceded 10 as well. So they were a team that were maybe gettable. And I think maybe their style lent to that mindset for me, because I think Fulham, we're always going to be a tough nut to crack. And even if they went 1-0 up, which they did, they have some game management in retreating, but that's not how Eddie Howe plays. So whatever the score pattern was going to be in this match, I always felt as though Bournemouth were going to have a chance. Of course, we scored first, but they're very open side. And that first half, I watched it back actually. I downloaded the game and I watched it. What a game of football that was, 45 minutes. And it was a riveting 0-0. It was incredible.
Yeah, and we certainly were not afraid of them or intimidated by them. I think you're right. The mismatches definitely helped us. I mean, Dan Burn, I don't know how he gets selected. I don't think any of the Newcastle fans know how he's getting selected at the moment. And particularly up against Semenyo, he's a big physical presence. He's quick. With Clive up there too, the number of times that we were able to get behind them, I thought was quite incredible in that first half. Then again, then moving forwards, I think that it didn't feel too uncomfortable. I know they had chances, and I know Gordon caused us a few issues, but I always felt watching the game that we had more goals in us than they did even in that first half.
Gordon did pose an early threat. I remember a ball over from Trippier early doors where he was at the far post. He ghosted it in. I think he headed it into the ground and it went wide. But then I don't want to bring up these Neto conversations again, but he was closed down by Gordon, and any other day that could have gone in. It seems to be when the ball's played back to him, just don't take a touch, Neto. Don't take a touch. I know he's got to play the Iriola way, but he nearly put us right in it.
He really did. He really did. I mean, that flash past the post, and we were fortunate there. I mean, it is. Neto likes to appear confident on the ball, but I think he just underestimated how quick Gordon was.
Yeah, he did, and he's always got that about him. But I mean, other than that moment, there might have been a couple of others in the first half, which we'll come on to. But really, I think we posed more of a threat, and we had the more gilt-edged chances. We've got to do an early shout out, I think, for Lewis Cook. I think was excellent at mopping things up. But he was being really niggly, putting a foot in, pressing the midfield, and generally being a nuisance, and probably showing Eddie Howe why he signed him in the first place. But my golly gosh, and that's a sentence I don't use too often, what a frantic period of play we had about a quarter of the way into the game, where Tavernier had a low shot. I think Christie megged his marker and then played it to Tav. It was a low shot that Dubravka did well to save. Newcastle then countered, but Kelly showed what he's good at, and he outmuscled Almiron. Now, Almiron's a quick player, but Kelly just does superbly. Made him look slow.
I thought Kelly did brilliantly in that particular instant. I thought the back four generally looked pretty solid. Even though you said Adam Smith was up against Harvey Barnes, he used his experience really well. And I thought generally Zabani and Senesi, they did look pretty comfortable as a back four. I think the midfield worked their socks off as well. I mean, Lewis Cook, what a game he had again. I thought Christie was everywhere, and generally it felt like the team were playing with a bit more belief, perhaps, than they did against Fulham.
Yeah, go back to Neto. We've got Steve in chat who's saying that he'd be surprised if Neto was our keeper next season. Be interesting to see what transpires with that, because I'm sure they can't be overly happy with the way he's been recently. But then again, he does produce the odd save or two, like at Fulham. Was it world class? Not particularly sure, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, in that same period of play, I think the ball was then pumped up to Semenyo, really good hold up play, and then he plays it to Lewis, who plays this sumptuous, like, curled ball into the path of Justin Cliver running in on goal. Really like the way he peeled off his marker. And at that point, I'm thinking, is he going to take it on? Fair play to him, he did the unselfish thing, but I think maybe Dom let it run across his body a little bit too much, because the shot with his left foot was actually quite weak, but probably should have done better, Dom, there.
Yeah, there were a couple of things about that passage of play. Number one, I think the instant that Lewis Cook hits that ball into the channel, it's almost like telepathic understanding, and I think that's really important as a good functioning indication of where the team's at, that they can hit those balls knowing that run was there from Cliver. He didn't need to look, and it was superb. Cliver is one of those players who's got to step up and have more self-belief in front of goal. I don't think he's displaying quite as much as a goal threat as he ought to be. And I was screaming at him to have a go. The fact that he passed it to Dom was kind of, okay, that still works, but Dom on his left foot is not Dom on his right foot. And, he did, you're right, he scuffed it a little bit, it was still a decent save, but should have been 1-0.
I think the way he was running, and he's a right-footed player, I think he would have had to hit it with his right foot, and it would have sort of curled away from the goal. And I think the angles of having the defender to his left and the Dubravka approaching him sort of lent him to then pass it. But yeah, Dom probably took a bit too much time. What I did like, though, was Cliver was so close to Dom throughout a lot of that. Wind back to like when Alex Scott plays in that role, I don't think he's as close to Dom. So I think Dom appreciates that. And there were these little combinations throughout the whole of the game where I thought, you get it.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what Clivert brings going forward. He's got that greater energy levels, and he does play closer to Dom, which is terrific. I think also what he offers is he's got great energy at coming back and breaking up the midfield. There were a couple of moments in that first half where he came back, and I don't know whether it was Grimares that he robbed of the ball, but he makes himself a right pain to the midfielders as well. So yeah, it was great bit of play. Like Cliver and Dom together, I think that's probably our first choice, number 9 and number 10.
Yeah, I think so. And just that press, like you say, just forcing them into mistakes. And they're a team that like to play out from the back, and obviously that pays off later in the game. But hey, we had another Dom chance where the ball was flashed across from Tav. Didn't realise, because obviously from where we are, bloody miles away. I'm not even sure having a pair of binoculars or a telescope would make it any better. But didn't quite realise how good that chance was. But I look at it, and the only excuse, if you want me to give Dom that, is he's stretching for it quite a bit. So it's very difficult to control. So, I mean, we all know that a seasoned Jeff Hayward would have scored that, but Dom, maybe not.
A seasoned Sam Davis, I mean, on his left foot, you'd have taken that. I mean, I watched that again, and I thought, it was a great ball in from Tav. Maybe he was just stretching a bit for it. I don't think his connection was kind of what he wanted, but he nearly got the follow-up too, and it was, again, that's 2-0, and we're out of sight already at half-time, and you think, just a bit more ruthlessness there, different game.
One thing I did think, though, was that Newcastle, I mean, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about them. I didn't think they were particularly great. I thought they were obviously missing their main man. Almiron was getting into these really good, pockets and flashing the ball across the box, and there was no one there. Now, a striker with the natural instinct and hunger to get forward, like your Wilsons, like your Isak, they would have been there and they would have troubled us a lot more. But they seem to massively be lacking centrally, and as such, they haven't really got a focal point, have they? They were quite poor, I thought. I mean, defensively they were all right, but all over the pitch, I wasn't that impressed with them.
You could see exactly what our game plan was with Newcastle. It felt like they were very disjointed. It didn't really feel like they had a plan. What they were relying on was Almiron, a bit of individual skill, Grimares, individual skill, and Gordon, individual ability to turn things around for them and create stuff for them. And when you play like that, I think it's much easier as a side to defend against them. And I think we did really well. We did really well, and they definitely were missing a centre forward, because I don't think Gordon is a 9. But let's take it. We caught them on a good day.
And I think the difference with this match as well is that I think Cook and Christie were better as well. I think Cook, Christie, and Scott, they lost the battle at Craven Cottage. But here, I think we dominated them, and we made players like Bruno Guimaraes, like, we made him look absolutely ordinary. I can't remember him doing much apart from like the last minute where he sends a ball across where they fortuitously equalised. Let's put it that way. But other than that, I can't remember them doing much. So at half time, I've got to say, I was actually feeling pretty optimistic. Now, I've got to do a little caveat, Jeff. Right. So the vlog, right? Like, it's okay to say this now because people have watched it. I missed the goal. I missed it. I did a Tom Jordan. In his absence of him not being there, I thought, you know what? I'll do a Tom. I'll stay down there.
No way.
And it's one of those things. I was debating going up straight away. I thought, oh, do I need a wee? And it's one of those things. It's almost like I was in bed at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I know my alarm's set up for 7, and I'm like, do I go? Because I can stay up in the stands, but I'll just be that little bit uncomfortable. And like I do in the mornings, I thought, right, no, I'll get up, I'll go for a wee, and then I'll go back. Lo and behold, I hear this kind of cheer, but it was a very distant cheer. So I'm like, hang on, is that them or is that us? Because we've only got about 12. No, we had about 1,000, I think. And then I heard us cheering in the concourse. So on the vlog, I basically took a bit of the goal celebration from the second one. I cut it out and I used it in the first one. I got this opposition vlog. I got a bit of footage from that. And then the second one, I manipulated so it looks like I was there.
Wow. Sam. I mean, it's the Iriola high press all over that bit of play. And
brilliant.
Just like you can see it. You can see the catastrophe unfolding when Botman gets the ball and is under pressure from Dom, and the way it came across to Dubravka. Yeah, great that they watered the ground.
Yeah. Well, not great later on in the game though, because Kelly was slipping up all over the place. But
less good, but good for us. And I think Dom was fantastic in not giving that up and finishing brilliant. It was brilliant. We loved it. Me and the Jacksons were very pleased.
Yeah, I thought so. The sort of style of his finish reminded me of a goal during COVID, our 4-1 win over Leicester, the one where we thought, hang on a sec, we're going to be getting out of this, or 4-2 or whatever it was. I can't remember, but we beat Leicester, and he just sort of, he managed to ghost in and just nick a ball on it, less the skills that he did at home against Leicester. But yeah, he just got in the right place, right time, right-footed finish outside of the right boot, and sending the 1,000 minus 1 fans. No, to be fair, there were a few in the concourse, into absolute delirium. And look, I mean, we had warnings that this might happen because even before that, Dom closed down Dubravka and put some pressure on him. In between that, Almiron had a shot that he probably should have done better with. It got onto his left foot and he just put it high and wide. Thankfully, he didn't have his shooting boots on that day. But then, as is the Bournemouth way, Jeff, we give away a free kick.
Yeah.
Cue the weirdest 6 or 7 minutes I think I've probably ever seen.
Yep.
Morgan's on the chat saying, can you make any sense of the VAR decision? There is no transparency, unfortunately, whatsoever. Checking too many things and the crowd have no idea. And we've also got a comment saying the VAR decision appears to have been technically correct, but if it was clear and obvious error, it should only take 45 seconds. That's from Trevor. And it was a weird one. I've watched it back and I still don't really get it. But Adam Smith was silly. by tugging a shirt back, but then the player that he was tugging was offside.
Correct. And technically, the decision, as far as I understood it, was that the player at the time that the offence was committed is not deemed to be offside affecting the play. Therefore, they don't call the offside first; they call the foul first, which is open to interpretation. And this is the problem with VAR. Every time what we seek with VAR is black and white. It's a foul or it's not, or it's an offence or it's not. And instead, what you get with VAR is the technology is fine. It's the people interpreting it who are the problem. And this referee, the VAR referee as well, have it already built into them that we are the weaker team, that we're going to lose. So they're looking to give decisions in favour of the opposition, particularly when you've got 50,000 home fans screaming for decisions. And it's not that they're corrupt. I think it's something that's a confirmation bias. You know which is the strongest team, so you're going to favour them naturally. It's what people do, and I think at this they looked at it, and if we are Manchester City or Manchester United, that decision does not get given. But because we're Bournemouth, it gets given, and they have to look at it so many times to interpret it in a way that, yeah, technically, it's arguably you could say that. However, Adam Smith starts pulling the jersey outside the box. So by the time he's actually in the box, when he is offside and interfering with play, surely he's offside then before the foul's committed. And if you're saying you give the foul before the offside, you've got to give the foul outside the box.
Yeah, and this is the thing I don't understand, because even the instructor, I don't know how it works, but the stadium announcer, the first thing he talked about was the offside. He said, checking offside. And then he says, checking foul. Well, what, hang on, look, which way is it these days? And there's just mixed messaging all over. Heather's said that Chris Temple on commentary for BBC Radio Solent was counting how many times the ref had to look at the decision, and it was around 12.
Yeah.
How is that clear and obvious? And I think only one person claimed for that, and that was the person hauled down. No one else did. I don't think the fans even made a noise as well, and that's what it's coming to, finding ways to make decisions. But I suppose the fact is, it was idiotic and stupid from Adam Smith. He shouldn't do that. But you just see these in the Premier League every week, and they don't go punished. So it's so frustrating that the first time it happens, we do.
Let me be clear as well. Adam Smith commits a foul. Stupid thing to do. Don't grab hold of a shirt. If you watch that replay, you see what Semenyo does, and he's jostling with him. There's a lot of blocking going on there, and that is acceptable in Premier League defences every week. Pulling the shirt, sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. Certainly wearing our badge, you don't get away with that when you've got Newcastle United 1-0 down and they're pressing for an equaliser.
I think, you've obviously got the pressure of 52,000 fans, but also because it's taken 4.5 minutes, I think any other decision other than awarding a penalty is going to be an anticlimax. And it's just going to make people think, perversely, we're like worse of VAR than it would if he doesn't. So if he gives it, sorry. So yeah, it's very frustrating. I didn't see the lines for offside when I watched the second half back, by the way. So whether it was or wasn't offside,
it was offside. It was offside when the ball was crossed in. It was offside.
And by the way,
anyway, it's one of those things. Neto actually got pretty close to saving it, I thought.
I was about to say that. I mean, if a keeper dives the right way, and it didn't go in the corner of corners by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, you even hear him connect to it. Should he have done better? I
mean, he got close. Always the advantage is with the player. He got close. I mean, I love the way that he throws the ball away from Gordon so he can't celebrate. I thought that was lovely afterwards. Small
Yeah.
victory.
Yeah, small victory. So that spurred the fans on at St James's Park. That I've got to say they were pretty muted throughout. Really, they weren't particularly loud. There were sort of moments after their 2-2 that we'll go on to where I thought, oh, here we go, is a repeat, another 3-2 incoming. But I'll tell you what, we rallied, and credit to like Iraola for giving the boys the belief that they can get something out of this. I mean, Tav had a shot over where it's just seemed to open up for him. It was a left-footed shot over the bar. I think Cliver blazed over as well. I think that's where Kelly played it into Solanke, but just that kind of telepathy between Dom and Justin enabled Cliver to get a shot that just was blazed over. Probably should have done better. It's so difficult, isn't it? From the angle that we're at, we've got no idea whether it was just over the bar or miles over the bar, because it's like watching a Sabitio game.
It's like watching a football match at ground level from the top of the Empire State Building. It's an insane perspective. I mean, you get a great pitch view. You can see everything happening and unfolding in a way that you can't, even on TV, you can't see that. So that's great. But you do feel a bit drone-like, you're sort of suspended up there. And is that really close or not? And particularly shots over the bar. I mean, you've got to think some of those chances, just hit the target, just make the keeper make a save. And that's really where we still need some work, I think, particularly Cliver, Christie and Tav. Just hit the target.
Yeah.
And I think, we did not look like the weaker team in that second half. We gave them a really good go, even when they came back to 1-1. And I think that says the belief was pretty strong.
Yeah, there was isolated chances. I remember Almiron put a ball across, and then Senesi did well to slide in and cut it out. But my goodness, it just went a whisker past the post. So lucky not to score an Oggy there. But Semenyo, wow. I think, before that, about a minute, Anthony Gordon was nearly through, but Neto read it. To his credit, he read it really well. It was a bit of a heavy touch from Gordon, but he almost looked like.
Do you think he read that, Sam?
It looked like he did. Like initially at first, I thought to myself, he's in no man's land here. But because of a heavy touch, it looks good afterwards. But it could. How do you feel about it then, Jeff?
Well, I thought he got a bit lucky. I thought Gordon's touch was pretty poor, which dug him out of a hole. Because I think he thought, I'm coming for this, and then thought, actually, no, I'm not. And then he was in no man's land, but it worked. Great, great.
Yeah, and look, the ball was only a couple of minutes later worked out to Semenyo from Solanke, and there's this pattern of play that's been happening quite a lot. It happened at Fulham, where I think we conceded, but defenders playing the ball into Dom Solanke's feet, and if he's ahead of the marker, holds it up, it plays it out to Semenyo, and at Fulham, I think the defender, Tim Ream or whoever it was, he got a touch and put Fulham on. But when Dom won it, everything just happened. And Semenyo, man.
Wow. I mean, what a finish. I mean, you could see he was up against Dan Burn, and, you think he can take him here. But I was actually quite surprised he took the shot from where he did, because actually the angle wasn't terrific for him, but boy, what a strike! What a strike!
Well, he hits them with a lot of power. It sort of reminded me, and I always compare goals against other goals I've seen. Gareth O'Connor at the Millennium Stadium in the 5-2, where he shoots from the edge of the box, albeit this is with his left foot, but it doesn't look like there's a real clear opportunity there, but I think it's just the power of where he hits it. But one thing that is quite surprising, I think Newcastle fans have been jumping on Dubravka's back. It's not in the corner. It's not in the corner at all, but it's just hit with such ferocious power that just went past him.
Yeah, it was the pace that did for Dubravka, and I think he kind of didn't expect Semenyo to shoot, so he probably wasn't set for that either. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And this is what Antoine Semenyo brings to the team. He's very direct, and when he's on form, which arguably since he got back from AFCON, I don't think he's necessarily hit the same heights, but Saturday was a return to what Semenyo brings, and what he brings is a directness, power, and he will have a go. He will shoot, and he's got a great finish on him. I think he's now second highest scorer behind Dom.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm
and
surprised.
he just needs to take more shots because he can score goals for us, and he's a great talent. I am a big fan, even though the fan next to me said we need to sub him off because it was 66 minutes before he scored.
Even Libby the dog disagreed with
Yeah,
him getting subbed off, as
yeah,
you could.
she didn't fancy that either. She thinks he's good.
If we check out the shots chalkboard, I mean, you can see that Newcastle did have a number of shots, but a lot of them, as you can see, are outside the edge of the box. I mean, same for us as well, but we did manage to convert there. So those were the stats in terms of the shots there as well. And as we just look at the overall stats, I know we've not finished the game because we need to talk about Matt Ritchie as well. One thing that I suppose it's the reverse of Fulham, where they had more shots overall, but this time we were more clinical with 7 on target and 5 for Newcastle being on target. It felt like defensively, Jeff. I don't know how you feel about our defence, but we were a lot better. We seemed to be more cohesive. I thought Zabani was absolutely superb. Senesi was coming in with blocks. I thought that Kelly, was also very good as well. I think, like as a unit, like as a back four, you see Newcastle sort of running forward, and you can see the line of 4 at all times, and they seem to have good shape at all times.
Yeah.
It seemed to really work this time.
Yeah, we limited them, you're right, to mostly all their shots were sort of 25, 30 yarders. Score from there, hats off to you. But as a percentage chance of scoring is limited, and I thought we did really well with that. I think Zabani and Senesi is a great, great partnership. They really complement each other very well. And I think Kelly had one of his best games up until, the 92nd minute. I thought he was perfect, really, in that game. We look solid. And maybe we can still talk about, does Neto command the box that well? And I'm sure we'll talk about that when it comes to the goal that Newcastle score. I think one thing that a commanding keeper would bring us would be the confidence that that back four can play a higher line, and maybe that's again just a little thing that we're missing.
Yeah, it could be. Well, you said that Kelly had a flawless game, and he pretty much did up
He had a flawless
until
90, a flawless
yeah.
90.
I mean, there were a few signs of players slipping around. Like we said, Kelly slipped about 5 minutes before their equaliser, but Matt Ritchie came on for Newcastle, and he's had previous when it comes to equalising late in a 2-2. This was the match timeline, as you can see, it was the penultimate piece of action there, 90+1. Before that, we did make a few substitutions. We've spoke about Alex Scott before, but he came on for Justin Cliver. I thought he did quite well,
He did
and
well.
Donga
Yeah,
Watara.
yeah.
Watara as well for Semenyo, like you said. But he was barely on the pitch, about 60 seconds before. Guimaraes, a player that up till now, like I said before, has been largely ineffective. He puts over a ball. What a time to slip. What a time to slip. Matt
What a
Ritchie.
fantastic. I mean, all day long, that is Kelly's ball. All day long,
Yeah,
if he stays on
yeah.
his feet. Um, and just such an unfortunate tumble. Very, very similar to Lewis Cook last week. You can't blame the player. Just happens sometimes. A bit like Dubravka's goal. Sometimes that happens, and it's just like, can we just not have so many of those happening this season? And certainly consecutive games, it was tough to take because Ritchie, you can tell he's not great in the air. He heads the ball back across goal. He,
I
you
know.
know, he didn't even try to score from that.
No, no, I know, and it felt to Lewis Cook, who he did expect the ball to come to him. Obviously, he thought that Ritchie was going to be better than that. Great shot by Lewis Cook.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
look, we're talking about Kelly. I think he was flawless, and Steve in the comments is saying that it wasn't Kelly's fault at all. I mean, I wouldn't say a fault, but had he not slipped, I think he would have won that and maybe
He
just put it
wins
out for a
that.
corner or
Yeah,
something.
Put
Um,
Kelly up against Matt Ritchie in the air. Kelly wins that. Kelly wins
mm.
that, and that ball either gets cleared or it goes for a corner. I could not see a way that they were going to score after we went
No, I
2-0.
couldn't either. No, and
And
then
I think the VAR, the fans were singing, "You only score through VAR," weren't we? Do you remember that?
yeah, I think so. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were. Yeah, I forgot about
And
that.
that's what it felt like. Newcastle felt bereft of ideas. We felt comfortable. If anything, we looked like we were going to get a third, not them get a
Mm.
second.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, and it was nice to see Matt Ritchie not celebrate against his previous team. I mean,
What, kicking the corner
of course
flag
he's
out the
going to
ground.
celebrate. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course he's
I
going to
mean,
celebrate. But yeah, he absolutely went mad for it. And at that stage, like I said, the fans I thought were getting loud at St James's Park, and I thought here we go. There's going to be another 3-2. But I think I think we held on pretty well. That there were a number of frustrations for Newcastle fans, not least I mean, both sets of fans I think had issues with the referee. For us,
mm,
mainly over VAR, but for them, they said there were a number of niggly challenges that were coming in. We were maybe lucky not to have more bookings than what we did, and as a result, maybe a red card with the culmination of that. But what did you think of the ref?
I think the foul count was 22-9,
Mm,
which feels like a lot of fouls. But if you look at a lot of those challenges, it seemed to me that they were 50-50s. And the referee gave the vast majority of those in favour of Newcastle.
mm,
Um, how can I put this delicately? The way we play is physical. It's high energy. We get close to players. We are likely to commit more fouls than the opposition. I think that anyone who watched the Forest video and how they played against us, and maybe Newcastle did see that, but anytime you get a challenge from a Bournemouth player, go down and get the free kick. I mean, could that be a tactic? Who am I to say? But it did feel a bit like that on Saturday when you've got a referee who's not particularly strong. And again, with the home bias there, it did feel like we got the rough end of the stick on loads of decisions. Um, yeah, that's what I thought.
but are we a dirtier team than we've ever been before? I mean, it was a. Is it a bit like the Pulis era, but with
It's
style and finesse?
I don't think it's quite the Pulis era. I think I think we are definitely a more physical side, and that's helped us. We are not a soft touch. We've got more physical players, and there is definitely a greater professionalism that if there's a chance for a break, we bring the player down. Phil Billing,
Yeah.
but then. I do think that other teams are getting wise to the way the high energy, the aggressive press, and I do think there are a lot of soft fouls, and I think we're culpable for that too. We do make some bad choices when just stay on your feet, don't go near him. You're not going to get the ball there. Giving away free kicks ultimately, well, it cost us for the penalty, and I just think we are at risk of losing someone like Christie or Cook earlier in the game because of the number of fouls that get committed.
I think what you said there, I mean, it's the third time in even this year, this calendar year, 2024, that we've dropped points from a leading position. So we sort of give the opposition the impetus to, keep on going until the very end. And look, we've been stung late. We've been stung after being ahead. Brentford earlier last year in 2023, there were a number of games I can think of where we took the
Yep.
lead and sadly we couldn't hold on to it. But we did keep going though, and I was really enjoying. I mean, to be fair, although I was very disappointed at full time, I think it was a fantastic game. It was real end to end, high intensity. Some fans have been saying that was up there as one of the best performances under Iraola. I think for me, Man United away tops it, but it was a good performance, wasn't it? And I think, given the pressure that Eddie was under to get his side playing, because he was under pressure and still is, I thought we did deal with them pretty well, but in the same breath, I'm also still thinking, well, they did lack some key players.
Yeah, it was a great performance against a disappointing Newcastle. I think their fans would say that too. Um, I was really pleased with the way that after the 92nd minute, we kept going at them. There was no sense we were going to settle for that point. And Dango, in fact, went on a mazy run and had a shot just before full time blew.
Yeah.
The ball actually went out for the corner. Ref didn't give the corner. He blew up. Typical. If we're wearing a different badge, maybe that's not the case. Just saying. And I think, just to see that endeavour from the team is fantastic. We don't care who we're playing. We don't care what the score is. We don't care how many fans they've got. We're still going to go for it. And I love that mentality in the team. To be fair, I think the 2 minutes of goal celebrations where Matt Ritchie kicks the corner flag down actually did not get added on, because that happened in extra time and he blew up on the 10th minute rather than on the 12th, which is what he should have done. So he should have had the corner, but 2-2, decent result.
Who is your man of the match, Jeff?
I think that's really tricky. I think Semenyo is much better in the second half than he was in the first. And I think for that finish, he deserves the man of the match. But I think there were some great performances all over the pitch. Lewis Cook was everywhere. I thought Christie was composed and again, a great person for just ticking over the ball. I thought Clivert was great for the time he was on the pitch. So, there were a number of players. I think on balance, I think just for the goal and for the fact he did a double backflip celebration, Semenyo.
Yeah, love that from you. We're just going to take a look at the Who scored ratings as well. Now, this is obviously based on statistics, and with a goal and an assist, it's actually gone to Dom Solanke with 8. But look, some high scores there. I mean, Lewis Cook doing very well as well with a 7.2. I think Semenyo there, 6.9. I think that's quite harsh. I don't really know what they're looking at. I think they're looking at all sorts of things like completed passes and duels won and all that kind of stuff. But Dom Solanke there, the high press works. He got his rewards, and he's not gone more than 2 games in a row without a goal now, which is promising. What's his ceiling this season, Jeff? Should he be aiming for 20 goals maybe? Because he's not far behind the leading scorer, I don't think.
Yeah, I think he'll get 20 goals easily, actually, and I think he should definitely be looking at a place in the England squad. I mean, there's a fella playing in Germany now who seems to be having trouble. So,
what is it about Harry Kane, by the way? I mean, he can't win trophies with Spurs. He goes across to Bayern, who win everything, and now they're 8 points behind Leverkusen.
I hope Manchester City sign him before Saturday. Yeah. I think it's obviously Kane is in that spot. I think Ollie Watkins is probably playing pretty well at the moment and is in there, but Dom definitely deserves a chance, I think, in the England setup, and could do really well because his game is actually an all-round game, probably a little bit different to Watkins, actually, where I think he'll fit well with the way that England play, and I think he would do well for the country. He's phenomenal. I just think the players around him need to contribute more, so that he doesn't feel it's only him. So that in games like Saturday, where Semenyo steps up and scores that second, if Semenyo doesn't score and we only score 1, which is what's happened the last few games, we lose that game. And that's not good enough for the amount of possession and the amount of dominance that we show. So Semenyo's got to keep scoring. Clivert's got to start scoring. Christie's got to start scoring. Actually, Christie's got to hit the target first, and then he can start scoring. And I think Tav has got to rediscover his shooting boots as well, because he had a couple of chances, like you said, one at the keeper, one over the bar. Tav last season was a goal threat, and I don't really see that at the moment, but he needs to start scoring too. And then I think we'll come away from a game like Saturday thinking, yeah, we deserve to win that 4-1.
Yeah.
We're not at the moment. We're not.
So we just need a team to follow up with a good win. But it is Manchester City. But weirdly, I don't know. I've got a funny feeling, Jeff. Got a funny feeling.
Sam, every time we play City, I get a funny feeling, and it's normally how many we're going to ship today. I think we all look at statistics, and they are the only team that we have not taken points off from the typical top six in the Premier League. They've beaten us every time. That has to change soon. I'm looking forward to seeing how we play against them. If we score first, I think we've got a chance. If they score first and control the game, I think we'll struggle.
I think 1998 or 99? I think I'm going to say 1999. 25 years ago was when we got our last point against Manchester City. I was there at the Old Dean Court, a 0-0 at home.
0-0. Was that the sending off game? It was, wasn't it? I was there.
Yeah, it might well have been.
He got Horlock. Was it Horlock got sent off for approaching the ref in an aggressive manner?
That's right. I'll tell you what, the old grey matter is still thriving. Look at that. I love that.
Yeah, I remember that game vividly because they were top team in Division 1 at the time, and they had the Old Dean Court had no kind of area for coaches or staff to sit. So they had from the dugout to the corner flag was full of Manchester City physios and team doctors and all sorts. And it was like, oh my God, they've got more people in their back staff than we've got in the crowd.
I remember the Old Dean Court because obviously at some point they eventually changed it so the home dugout was made larger. But the away one was still the same. But it was so cramped in there, like really, really cramped, that they ended up just not sitting in there, and they sort of parked their bums between the wall and then the roof part, and they were just sort of leaning forward trying to watch the game. And yeah, I do remember that one really well. And it was a 0-0, so that's the last time we got a point. Maybe it could change.
Maybe. Let's hope so.
You never know. It's going to be interesting to see how the title race pans out after Liverpool's win and Man City being held. Maybe there'll be a reaction from them. Maybe there will be from us. You never know. Lewis Cook was Ethan's man of the match. He's on chat here as well. And Steve says that one of the issues for him is that we don't have a goal scoring number 8. And yeah, that could well be the case. I think we do need, I don't know, Semenyo being back is key. Tavernier, like you say, not popping up. I'd like to see Lewis Sinisterra start.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. You know, when Tav is playing well, Sinisterra doesn't start. But when Tav is not playing well, what have you got to lose by starting Sinisterra? He does carry a goal threat. He's good in the air as well, and it offers that aerial threat that Tav doesn't either. So 50-50 for me at the moment after Saturday. I think actually Sinisterra might start against City.
It's funny, like certain players, like from a fan's perspective, we're obviously sort of looking through rose-tinted spectacles, or certainly a different pair of glasses to what the manager is or the tactical teams. But you look at certain players, you think they are game changers. We need to start them. Like, for instance, we always raved about Siriki Dembele, but he was rarely utilised, rarely started. And I just wonder whether it's something defensively that Sinisterra maybe doesn't offer as opposed to Tav. I don't know. Tav's got a great sort of like turn of pace, and he can whip in a ball pretty well every so often. But he is a very different type of player, a different option. And whether Man City will be that team, we just don't really know, I suppose. Yeah. But either way,
well, I think you're probably with Sinisterra and Semenyo, you're playing two right footers. Maybe the balance isn't quite right. I don't know. Yeah. But maybe keep Sinisterra on the bench, just to terrify City that we might bring him on if it's still 0-0 in the 80th minute or something.
That's one of the matches that you can watch live. So if you've been listening or watching, you've probably heard a few comments from people that are watching right now. How is this happening? Look, we're trialing something for any in-person shows we do or any streams. We're going to be recording the second look live on YouTube in the afternoon. So if you support us via Ko-fi, this is for our monthlies who show a regular commitment to support the future of Back of the Net. We've got what's called a Telegram group where you can come in and chat Cherries in a safe, secure environment. We often post first look content on there, our bloopers. That nearly was a blooper just then. And also we're doing this as well, so you can get interactive on the streams as well. And then it will still get put out on YouTube as usual. But if you want to pop along and be part of that, it's afcbpodcast.com/support to find out more information about us. Or if you just want to do it straight away, it's afcbpodcast.com/coffee. Superb. Tom will be back soon. A lot of people have been asking about him. He is. He wasn't at the game on Saturday, but we're going to be getting him back on shows very, very soon. I'm absolutely certain. But you know what, Jeff? You are like a Dongo Watara.
Oh,
You know,
God.
coming off the bench, showing these little flashes. It wasn't quite the last minute goal against Spurs, but it was a solid showing. It was all good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I be a bit more like Semenyo in the double backflip? I think that's the highlight for me. That's what I aspire to. I actually, having said that, I did think Dango was great when he came off the bench.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah.
I thought he was terrific and showed what he can offer, which is a lot of threat, and he's better at defensive work than Semenyo too. So yeah, it's not too bad. But I wish I want to score more goals than Dango does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sam. Really enjoyed it, and great to see you at the game.
I'm going to put you in the Tom Jordan role now. What can people do if they like this video, Jeff?
Gosh, what can they do? They can hit the bell. Can they subscribe? Can they like? Can they comment? Maybe even, I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, you got it. You got it. Yeah,
Wow,
well, you've just said every YouTube buzzword that you know right there, haven't you?
I'm all over it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Whether you've been watching or you've been listening, we truly appreciate it. Stay tuned. More content on the way. But for now, we'll see you in the next one of the Cherries.